you know, that that the CPC wants to represent on the board. I'm not real comfortable with you, you know, I guess advertising that you could find people of color through CivNet, because it's never going to address the cause as to why.
Sorry, did you kind of answer, or did you want to get more to?
Oh, no, I stopped. Go ahead, sir.
Sure. So, what I first want to say is, I don't think that's the complete answer to anything. I think it's something that can help. If I were to promise you that you'll be able to find as many people of color you need just through CivNet, and it's the only thing you need to do, I'd be fine, and I'd like you to call me out on it. What I think and just to touch a little bit more on that, honestly, what I think will help you find people of color, part of the problem is trust. I myself, so we don't want a community outreach. I go to community meetings like this day in, day out. It's what I do. I'd love to pass this around to the people in the audience if they'd like to sign up. And it's a struggle. As a white male, in particularly, when I first started doing this, I would go into the South Valley. I'd be very intentional at trying to identify the organizations and groups that I know better represented people of color. But it's harder for me to get in that door because they just don't trust me as much. And that's understandable because a lot of those communities have been traumatized over the years, and I represent something that is less trustful. But what I've been able to do is create strategic partnerships with people of color who believe in what we're doing, that I've been able to have more in-depth relationships with, so they know where I'm coming from, and they know that I care about this and I'm trying to be intentional about it. And so we have a youth coordinator who grew up in the South Valley, a young Chicano male, great youth organizer who used to work for New Mexico Forum for Youth and Community, and it has been 10 times easier for him to step into those doors and talk to those people about what's going on because they trust him, and he has a long history with those people. And so honestly, I think that's the answer for, and that would be the one thing that I suggest, is go on there and find the community leaders who may not serve on your board but are trusted by those communities, and talk to them about what you're doing and build some strong relationships with them and be open and honest about where you're coming from, and then go into communities. It's as much going to be face-to-face as the online component. All this is maybe helping you identify a few of those leads that will then allow you to expand your capacity. I don't know if that answers your question, but...
That was a great answer.
Yeah, I mean, it actually does, and thank you for that longer, version. I guess my only concern is just that, like, at all the CPCs, it's CivNet, and I just don't want people to be completely focused on one thing, because as you said, it's going to take like a multitude of platforms in order to engage the community at large. And I mean, it's nothing against CivNet or you or anything like that. I just don't want to be again focused and then everybody advocating or campaigning for one thing as if it's again the answer to end all searches or whatever. I just if we're looking for diversity in people, we equally got to look for diversity in other things and tactics. But also, there's a large group of people that just don't do Facebook, they don't do Twitter, and flat out refuse. They won't even trade in their flip phone, so it's some kind of
so I would say this
okay,
is one more platform that's meant to complement this. In terms of like other social media, we are just releasing some new features in terms of highly integrating with that, so you can do Facebook and Twitter through your CivNet and reduce some of your time. We are by no means looking to replace face-to-face. I think that'll never go away and should be an important component of it. The only thing, what we are trying to do is provide a complement that fills in some of the gaps that aren't being addressed for things like that. This face-to-face is limited in certain areas. You only have so much capacity. There are people, for example, who might not be able to attend your meetings in face-to-face, who might like to know what's going on. What I can say is we've had a lot of people who have joined who don't have a Twitter or Facebook and are interested in doing this. Well, I think what we are trying to replace is to a certain degree, email list organizing. I think it's not the most efficient way of organizing people in groups. I think a lot of things get lost. It's limited to who's actually on that email list. And so and there's some people on those email lists who are never going to join CivNet. So what we're going to be building on in the next couple of months is the ability to import email lists and have CivNet generate the content that goes into those email lists based on what you're doing. So to a certain degree, reducing the burden of you as an organizer, but still addressing those people who might not be comfortable joining CIVNet, and that's fine, because there's going to be people like that. Things that we plan on building on in the future are things like SMS notification, which for those who don't know is text notification. Text is some of the highest open rate notification. So we are trying to be as multimodal as we can and support as much of those types of organizing as we can.
Right on, thanks.
I think, sorry, sir?
Could you briefly describe the security of your operations?
Like general web security, or?
No, the security of the data that you're going to be using and sharing.
We are following all the standard security protocols. As you can see, there's a HTTPS, which means HTTP secure, which means that when you send requests through the internet, it's encrypted. We have an encrypted database. I don't know if you have any specific questions. I'd be happy to talk about that more, but it's a little. We are following the strict standards that you're supposed to follow a little bit if you're doing this. But what I would say is, in general, like anywhere on the internet, your data is never completely secure. We're doing as much as we can, and I'd always be careful about what passwords you put in and things like that. And banks get hacked into every now and then. It's not something you can ever be completely protected against. But we're doing everything that is standard and more so.
Thank you.
Even DNC.
Yeah, it just goes to show,
But anyway, since Charlie used me as an example, and I'm probably not really good one, I'm just starting to get my feet in using CIVNet. But I'm also, I have a relationship with a couple of Black Baptist ministers in town, and I'm working through them to start dialogue with the black community. And we're also looking at the Native American community, the Muslim, our Hispanic. The thing is it's complicated because there's a lot of communities within those communities. Like Hispanic, it isn't just Mexican, it's Spanish, it's South American, it's Central American. Asian is another one that's neglected. And we're not getting the representation in our CPCs from these communities, and they're very important. So we're not ignoring those communities.
Yeah, and in addition, in terms of looking for support, I know a lot of you are not younger people. There are a lot of younger people on the site, which can be beneficial. And in addition to that, one of the things we're trying to do. Yeah, how do you put that lightly? But this is a place particularly where it may be useful to find that. We are partnering with a lot of high schools going into this upcoming semester, including Health Leadership High School, RFK Charter School, South Valley Academy, potentially NACA, the North Native American Community Academy. In addition to that, what we're trying to do is connect youth to ways to get involved. And one of the ways we're doing that is trying to connect youth to social media opportunities. So if you're all looking for someone to manage your CIVNet and or Facebook page, you could go here, for example, and see that call to action, and maybe find some youth who want to get involved and help you manage it. And that could be an interesting way for them to get involved.
Charlie, revoke those bucks slowly.
Yeah, so I keep having to say this. I grew up on the East Coast. I moved here 2 years ago. I'm working on it, but man, do presentations, I lose track of it sometimes. Yeah. I personally moved out here. My fiance is Navajo. She grew up in Window Rock, and that's my connection to Mexico. Thank you. I will leave these up at the back if you want more information. My email is on the back. They have, some more information if you'd like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. We had him here today because the CPCs are looking for a better way for the CPCs to be able to communicate amongst themselves. And so we thought we'd have him come here and discuss it as opposed to somebody who might have used it a couple of times, so that everybody could have a fundamental understanding of the purpose of the website and the CPCs to evaluate whether or not they want to use it as one of their communication tools. Okay. Moving on to item number 4. Before we do that, I want to encourage anyone who wants to attend the NACOL conference the last week in September. Early registration closes on the 31st of July, so if you want to try and save money on your registration, NACOL, the National Association for the Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. We are hosting that conference here in Albuquerque the last week of September. The agenda has been posted. There will be a community discussion on that Sunday. And then the conference will run through the rest of the week. If you don't want to attend the full conference, there are volunteer opportunities. And if you want to volunteer, contact Amanda, and she will put you in contact with the volunteer sign-up list. If you volunteer, then you can attend that conference sessions that day. So you'll do your volunteer work, and then you'll be able to attend some sessions. Okay, so take a look at the agenda and see if there's anything that you might be interested in. And then if you're not going to attend it as a regular attendee, then please volunteer to do so.
It's September 25th to 29th.
Correct. Yes, thank you. September 25th through 29th. There's also a NACOL scholarship dinner that Monday. Those tickets are limited. And then Wednesday night will be the Sankofa dinner, and that's going to be at the Civic Plaza outside. That's to send off the new conference. Next year's conference is going to be in St. Petersburg, Florida. And they have also announced the keynote speaker. They announced the keynote speaker for the luncheon. If you attend, I apologize. The keynote speaker is going to be Roy Austin. He's doing the keynote address.
Who is he?
Roy Austin. He joined the White House Domestic Policy Council as Deputy Assistant to the President for Office of Urban Affairs, Justice, and Opportunity. In his position, he coordinates the formulation and implementation of policy covering criminal justice, civil rights, housing, labor, human service, and initiatives such as Promise Zones.
One other note, he was the Deputy Assistant Attorney General of the Civil Rights Division and was supervising our section, the Special Litigation Section, when we recommended to open Albuquerque PD as an investigation. So he'll be familiar with his case.
So, has everybody read the monitor's report? All 352 pages? Yeah, right. How about the executive summary at least? Okay. What I thought we would do tonight is we would go over the paragraphs that cover the CPCs. That seems to be appropriate. And beyond that, just get a basic understanding of what the monitor, how the monitor is evaluating not only Albuquerque Police Department, but CPCs, the CPOA, and the POB. They're all under that umbrella. So let me move down here. So there's 3 phases for compliance. There's primary compliance. Primary compliance is the policy part. If you have the policy in place, then you will come into primary compliance if that policy has been approved by the monitoring team. The next step is secondary compliance, and that is the implementation of the policy. And then thirdly, will be, do you have operational compliance? And basically that is your department, agency, organization functioning day to day with supervision under the new policy? All three of those have to be obtained, and they are all sequential. So you have to have your policy in place first, then you have to train. Now I'm sounding like Dr. Ginger. Then you have to train, and then you have to be operational in that training. Okay? So let's get to it. Paragraphs 266 is where the CPCs begin in the settlement statement, in the settlement agreement. The city shall establish community policing councils in each of the 6 area commands with volunteers from the community to facilitate regular communication and cooperation between APD and community leaders. At the local level, the community council shall meet at a minimum every 6 months. You guys didn't know you could get away with semi-annual meetings, did you? So the methodology, and this is the format for every paragraph within the monitor's report. So every paragraph within the monitor's report has this formatting for the evaluation. Methodology. Members of the monitoring team conducted on-site interviews with APD, communications, and community outreach staff on August 20, 2015, and November 4th through the 5th, 2015. It is important to realize that this evaluation period ended 3.5 months ago. Okay, the monitoring team has been back into town to set up for report number 4. Okay, so this, while this will be a current topic as Dr. Ginger makes his presentation to Judge Brack on Thursday, this evaluation period is going to be at a minimum 3.5 months old. Okay, so that's why these dates are so old. Follow-up telephone interviews with APD staff conducted on December 17th, January 8th. The monitoring team also reviewed communications and other artifacts related to this paragraph, attended CPC meetings and interviewed participants in CPC meetings held by APD. Monitoring member met with APD communications and outreach team on March 14th, April 15th. Team met with CPC chairs and some voting members on the 16th of April. The results. Community policing councils have been established in each of the 6 area commands since November 2014. During this and prior reporting periods, each of the 6 councils met once a month. ABE reports that the establishment of the councils was widely communicated and that the volunteer members were solicited from throughout the community. Some community members dispute this and complain about the lack of broad notification of meeting times and locations in prior reporting periods. There were similar complaints voiced by community members during the 3rd reporting period. Attendance and participation in CPCs have not met the goals of the ABD by their own admission. During the 3rd reporting period, attendance was uneven across the 6 area commands. Actual documentation of attendance and background information on participants is not consistently available, although efforts are now underway to enhance collection of that information. The CPCs during the 3rd reporting period improved in their regular communication and cooperation between APD and community leaders at the local level. APD staff also asked for technical assistance during the 3rd reporting period to assist CPCs in outreach efforts and to improve overall operations. The city contends compliance on this paragraph based upon policy or practice pre-existing the CASA. The monitoring team disagrees, but will reassess this paragraph during the next reporting period. As this paragraph is currently not yet due, time remaining to assess the city's compliance assertions, however, the monitoring team is hesitant to declare compliance based upon requirements of, quote, city rules and regulations, city ordinances, bylaws, etc., unquote, as requested by the city. Such documents often require translation to promulgated police policy to be effective. I believe none of your paragraphs are actually due yet. And I don't know, anybody know what the due date is?
I think edit would be that secondary
The 2
compliance period, so between
2
year
years?
three. So then we would have to fall under operational by year 3.
November 2016.
Okay.
I
So
think,
some
but
paragraphs have specific timeframes
Mhm.
for compliance. Those that don't need to come into compliance within the 2-year mark, which is
Okay.
November 2016. If you come into compliance earlier, Dr. Ginger will make that determination. If not, he is rating them not yet due.
Yes, ma'am.
Selena, what are the APD, what they want as far as attendance?
I mean, we want to comply with the settlement agreement, right? So that would be a broad cross-section of diversity in each of the councils that reflect their community. We haven't been given exact direction on what that would look like from the monitoring team standpoint. So our goal is to just be as diverse as possible. I think you're going to find that participation is different in each of the area commands, just based on the needs of that area command. But our goal is to monitor growth and have them be as diverse as possible.
Is your question about board member participation or the collecting of data as to who's attending
It was
meetings?
something that we read, and now I can't find it. Attendance and participation in CPCs have not met the goals of APD by their own admission. I was wondering what those goals were.
So the first goal would be to have all the boards filled for up to 7 members, right? That was the original kind of establishment of the voting board members.
Okay.
So the very cursory goal would to have all 6 boards filled with those 7 in-place functional voting members. I would think that we're really, really close to that, but not. Southwest is still struggling a little and Southeast is still struggling a little. So that would be the first goal, and then the second goal would be to see regular attendance increase.
So there are no
that's-
numbers in there, it's just to see an increase.
Yeah, I think it'd be really hard, and you guys can give direction. I would appreciate direction from the councils independently on what you would see as that goal. I think ours is just projected as continual growth.
Yes, ma'am.
I know when we have our minutes for Northeast, we usually have an approximate head count of members of the public as well as a list of who's attending head table. I was just wondering if that's being done by all the CPCs and if this is accurate to show attendance, or if we have to have people sign in by what district or city council they're in or something to show that we're reaching a certain number of people.
I personally really like the way you do it in the Northeast, although I'd hate to make that a requirement for all of the councils. It would be helpful if the attendance sheets were submitted to APD. That doesn't always happen through the councils, and I'll make that request formally to you. So that way we could show the attendance sheets to the monitor and submit them to that team.
Is that something that could just be simply attached as a part of those minutes through the facilitator?
Yeah.
Our attendance sheets also have contact information. Would it just be enough to submit? And not everybody signs in. This last time we had 55 or so, and by head count, and a whole lot of them didn't sign in.
So part of what we're doing with Jim and his team with the Office of Neighborhood Coordination and now Sarah is taking that contact info and translating it into an email list for you guys. So including that contact info, that info doesn't necessarily have to be submitted to the monitoring team, but it would help us to be able to help you further your communication to those those people. So all the work that you're doing independently, Penny, we want to help the other CPCs do through those new office positions.
We might have fewer people put down contact information if they think everybody's is going to be given out.
We could put, this is something that could be discussed amongst you guys, we could put, we could redact that information when it's submitted to the monitoring team, or I'd be open to suggestions on how you'd like to have that handled. But the goal for receiving that contact information is to create those email lists that kind of the Valley had been looking for, and decrease some of the work for you as board members in being able to communicate to. So we would just give you that list already put together.
So we give you the list and you give it back to us?
Yeah, but with all the data already imported. So what Penny is doing in the Northeast is unique kind of to the Northeast. She's updating that list for
Right.
you guys.
Right.
And for some of the other councils, that's been a bit burdensome.
Oh, okay.
So that was a resource that was requested by some of the other councils. But if you don't want that resource, or if you think it should go differently, I'd be okay with that too.
Essentially, we're having the same problem in the Valley. We listen to minutes, all our voting councilors, our officer, officers on the council, and our advisors. But then we have a separate sign-in sheet, and the challenge, I think our last meeting, we had something like 60 some odd people. I don't think there were more than about 20 people that signed the sign-in sheet, so I don't know if we need to have like a sergeant of arms when they come in and have them sign in, so we have a record of the people that are attending our meetings. I think that's a tough call, so I don't think, and I include them with our minutes. When I email them out to everybody, I put it on Subnet. I don't put the members, our guest members on Subnet, but I do include it to the CPCs and to Selena. One of the things that's concerning to me is these are supposed to be posted on our Valley Area Command website and also on the APD website. And the last I checked, our BAC is like 3-4 months behind. Selena, I think the APD is at least 2 months behind. Nothing's current. So I don't know what do we need to do to, number one, get our guests to sign in so it reflects the people that are attending our meeting, and number two, to have this information available on the website.
My new assistant starts tomorrow, and that'll be her main job, is updating all of that communication. So starting tomorrow, that's her first task as she gets in, is to make sure that all the minutes have been posted from the previous meetings.
We have a website?
We,
Oh, you said Valley
Area
Area.
Command, the website, they
When was
post our
that set?
minutes.
When was that set up?
Yeah.
Can you stand it up?
Each of the, it's set up by the police department, it's their website. Each of the area commands has their own
Wow, that's
website.
crazy, I'm just not finding
They've
out.
had that one before we.
ValleyAreaCommand.com. Oh,
Yeah, keeping up to date is an issue.
oh, so it's not CPC. Sorry, I never.
Those are each
Yeah.
command's APD. Yes, sir.
We encourage people to sign in, and they usually do, and we say if you would be interested in getting our agendas, including guest speakers and that kind of thing, and copies of our minutes, please put your contact information. So that's why we will have some people that's just their name, and we'll have some people with phone numbers, and, for texting, and email addresses.
Doug, the audience wanted to know what your recommendation was that you mentioned when you gave your report. Could you just quickly tell me?
Oh, it's the one that I think several of our organizations have recommended, and that's the brochure on CPCs and when they meet, that's going out with the November gas bills. That's that issue.
Oh, okay, yeah, They didn't know, and I can tell them, because I didn't get it.
Oh,
Thank you.
Okay, anything else with 266?
do you represent?
Foothills.
Thank you.
Foothills is everything east of Ubank.
Anything else with 266? Yes, sir.
I just had a question. I understand the Foothills Area Command has a member, a youth member who
Yes.
isn't old enough to go to the Citizen Police Academy?
They're working on an alternate solution for the Citizens Police Academy, and when it gets closer to being decided on, then we'll work that issue. In this particular case, we're talking about a very mature 16-year-old, so mature that we actually let her vote in our discussions in that. That is a decision that we made as our Foothills CPC.
So she's now a voting member?
Yeah, but based on our interview with her. Now, we could also have another youth member come in that's, say, 17, and if we don't think they're mature enough to vote, they are welcome to come and welcome to contribute to the discussions but couldn't vote. That's a call we'll make when we get there.
How do you measure maturity?
We measure maturity by interviewing them.
And I'd like to make one point, if I could. Any communications between the CPCs and the city, those are public records in their system.
Well, only her name is listed with the Foothills. In order to contact the youth member, you have to contact one of us, and we have to decide if we want to pass it to her or not. So you couldn't look and see what her phone number is or address.
Oh,
or
sure,
anything.
sure, yeah. Those are exemptions under the state
Yes.
IPRA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The CPCs are supposed to have, all of membership is supposed to graduate from the Citizen Police Academy. And apparently that's something we've just been setting aside, but it's in the settlement agreement. And how can you have someone who's too young to even attend the police academy as a voting member? That doesn't make
It's a
sense.
violation.
And why aren't all of the members attending the police academy? Some of them have been members now for several years and haven't bothered to do it. 3 out of 5 chairs have not attended the police academy. And that's one of our requirements. So isn't the oversight concerned about this?
She's mature.
I think when they established, just a
I'm
second.
asking you questions.
I think when that requirement was established, they did not realize how long the police academy is. They didn't realize it was 74 hours. They didn't realize the number of weeks involved, and that's a tremendous commitment to put on volunteers.
But that's
I've
a
been there.
requirement. I have been there. When did you graduate?
Oh, the last class in November of 2014.
And Jennifer,
So you did
your,
graduate?
Certainly.
Excellent, thank you. I did not realize that, but
and Jennifer, your recommendation through the Valley CPC, you had
It was
made the
to
formal
shorten it, yes.
recommendation. Yes,
We
and
did
so
have-
I have a meeting with Shannon Saavedra, who runs the CPOA, or the CPA, on the 30th to discuss that, because they have condensed things for the CPOA. And so that's being looked at,
Thank
as
you.
well as that youth requirement, because it's also a requirement of the settlement agreement that we have a broad cross-section including youth members. So
are
we
they,
have to
what age do
define,
you have to be to attend the police academy?
you have to be 18. So we're looking at how
18?
to include people that might be younger than 18 who are serving on the councils. And we've all discussed that
So the cost is
the,
really malleable then?
CP, what?
So we can just rewrite the settlement agreement when it says.
There's no-
in there
That's
that
not
you have to
rewritten.
wait.
There's no requirement in the settlement agreement
Yes,
about
there
attending
is.
the police academy.
Yes,
That's only for the police oversight.
No, it's for CPA. It's for
It's
CPC.
182.
So if I'm mature, I
Hold
can.
on, hold on. I'm wrong.
Members of the Community Policing Council shall possess qualifications necessary to perform their duties, including successful completion of the Citizen Police Academy.
Right, and so to make it easier for the council members, we didn't stipulate the
But
time.
we should all try to do this because that
Stop,
establishes our credibility.
Please. These CPCs do not fall under the oversight rule.
Under the settlement, this is under Community Policing Council, Section C.
I understand that, no, I'm trying to answer your question about
Okay.
oversight.
All right,
Okay.
all right.
These councils do not fall under the police oversight.
Good for you. So why are we being hosted here?
Point of
Because it is-
information,
because
I'd
it-
like for APD spokesperson to be recognized, because I don't think she was heard while speaking. I don't like this chaos down here. Would you please repeat?
Selena Espinosa, the community outreach for APD, is the one that's been answering the questions.
But she,
because
her
because
last
the-
statement went unheard. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So Jen specifically, because she's concerned about this issue, which we totally agree with, is her recommendation through the Valley CPC and voted on by the Valley Board was to see if that CPA, the Citizens Police Academy, could be condensed. Now, in discussion with the members of the board, that recommendation was accepted by the department, and we're currently reviewing it to be able to look at how it can be condensed. When it comes to the stipulation of youth members, it was a cart before the horse, right? So that's written into the settlement agreement. We had prior Citizen Police Academy rules and recommendations. So it's trying to marry these two and meet them. So we are currently looking at what maybe an appropriate age range might be for that. If it's under that age of 18, maybe we move it to 16, or a high school junior, or you make the requirements because we want to be inclusive of youth membership, which it states in the settlement agreement. I think the other stipulation that you have to remember is, though it does say that you must complete the Citizens Police Academy successfully in the settlement agreement, it does not give that time frame. So it doesn't say prior to becoming a member of the board or within the middle term of your board membership. It just asks for completion upon your term. And so APD, to be able to give everybody the opportunity to, and knowing that it is a time commitment, has been a little bit lax on that requirement of when, not of the actual requirement, but the when portion that has to be completed.
So, two things. One, are you going to have a regular schedule when you set these up? Because it's really difficult for people to
Yes.
plan. Maybe 2 offerings a year, is that going to?
Yes.
That would be awesome. And then, I'm sorry, I forgot the other question.
I have a quick question. So if they haven't gone to the Citizen Academy as someone who is under 18, are they allowed to have the voting privilege?
Yes, because there are members who, even though they're over 18, haven't completed that portion. So there's no when,
Okay.
it's just that they have to be
Okay,
completed by
gotcha.
the term.
I remember this. Don't you have a youth program already at the CPA of some kind? I saw kids coming in.
There's a junior academy, but it's not the same type of
It's not the same
informative
level.
educational. It's more of a like summer camp type program.
I was in the last CPA, and there were four students, 2 of them were high school, and 2 of them were senior. So I don't know that there's a real strict rule of what age they have to be.
Well, she said
You
18.
have to ask certain, but I'm not sure what their age
I could-
I think it's a liability issue for the
was. The
department.
mother was one, so.
All right, anything else on 266? Yes, ma'am.
I just thought there's a simpler way to keep records of how many people attend each of the CPC meetings. I think it's quite simple. If the person that is recording, or the secretary, whatever that position is, that they count. And that way you don't have to worry about people signing in. It's far more difficult this way. It's just simple and to the point.
Thank you.
I would like to say I like that suggestion. It was forwarded to me that a lot of people don't trust APD right now and they don't want to sign in their names right now. So if we just did a head count, I think that would be a real good idea.
I have a question. If I served on a CPC, why aren't the area commanders or the deputies running the CPC meeting versus Ms. Espinoza? And the second question is, does the consent agreement have a relationship between the CPOA and the CPC? Well, I'm not understanding then what your role is, Mr. Harness, in this meeting.
We, a few months ago, because I do attend most of the CPC meetings, decided that we would host these on a quarterly basis as a chance for the CPCs to get together and for them to discuss topics of interest to them. And beyond that, it's part of our outreach as a CPOA. And it is an opportunity for us to have greater access to what's on the mind of the public. We have no formal relationship with the CPCs, but that we are all citizens of Albuquerque, and that we are trying to get a gauge of public sentiment, public policy, and we are offering our resources as the POB and the CPOA to help facilitate in any way possible for the CPCs to be successful with what they're tasked under the settlement agreement. We have to move on because we only have 17 minutes and we have more paragraphs to get through.
And I'll respond to Ed's comment. I very much appreciate the role that the CPOA has helped us coming together in this coordination effort.
Yes.
Providing the space and the time and everything.
All right, 267, as we know, I'm wrong, and you do have to go to the ABD Academy. And beyond that, the methodology is the same for all of the paragraphs, the interviews, the telephone calls, everything else. The results, applications for council membership were posted online. Only those persons with criminal histories were eliminated from consideration for membership. Initially, ABQ city employees and representatives from select stakeholder groups interviewed prospective members. Currently, there is a lack of clarity about the membership appointment process. APD emphasized identifying and selecting members with people skills. Each member is required to do a ride-along as stipulated in the CASA and must complete the Citizen Police Academy. I have that now in my brain. 12 weeks requirement for PCA is posing a hardship for many members to complete, and APD is considering a modified schedule to accommodate members. APD acknowledges a need to gather more background information on members and prospective members to help ensure and promote a cross-sectional representation of voting members and participants. The CASA also requires that the selection mechanism be developed in conjunction with community members, and APD is working with the CPAs to consider modifications of the CPC voting membership requirements, including the number of voting members. APD is open to expanding membership and to conducting additional outreach to ensure a greater cross-section of community representation. In fact, APD requested technical assistance during the third reporting period, in part to devise strategies to expand CPC voting membership and participation and make it more representative of the communities they serve. Technical assistance delivery started in the next reporting period. For this reporting period, there remains no documentation that current members represents a cross-section of community members from each CPC as required. The city contends compliance with this paragraph because the CPCs are established. Such a contention ignores the specific composition requirements of this paragraph relating to the membership in the CPC. The monitor continues, the monitor considers this a serious deficiency in CPC membership at this time. That's 267.
I have a question.
Yes.
As to what would be considered documentation that current members represent a cross-section. I can tell you that we have 3 men, okay? We have some young ones, some old folks. We have some people, I'm sorry. We have African Americans, we have Hispanics, we have things like this. But there are certain groups that I really don't think we're allowed to ask about, find out about diversity when we interview. And,
well, this is not, this isn't an employment, this isn't an employment situation. If you want to use the guidance that, you can look at our complaint form, and that's the information that the DOJ wants us to track as far as race and gender and ethnicity and struggling with homelessness and those types of things. So that might be a guide, but this isn't an employment situation where you're going to have some sanction if you ask those questions. That would be my
interpretation. The online
interpretation.
application doesn't ask a lot of that. We did get ages on some of these folks.
Okay, then maybe that's something that you would want to incorporate or
Maybe
ask the
something
city
to
to
address
incorporate.
after, once the application process is done, gather that information. And again, perhaps simply it's gonna come down to an issue between APD and the monitor as to what the monitor will accept. In terms of straight numbers, you know, if we stand in the list that says we have 8 female members, 3 male, we have so many in this group, age-wise, we have so many that identify with this ethnicity, is that going to be sufficient? That's something I think we need to work with APD, and they need to work with the monitor to determine what constitutes that cross-section, and what information do they need from us to enable them to answer that to the monitor.
And do they want it on everybody who attends? Because
That's
I
gonna
know
be-
our attendees are not all from our area command, and it looks like this implies they want to know if your area command is being represented cross-sectionally.
And that's, yeah, are we talking voting members, are we talking attendance? And I think attendance, we're back to the issue of straight numbers. We're not going to be able to get this information. We don't want this information from a lot of our attendees. I think we're overstepping the needs of the CPCs. So this is something I think we need to address and work with APD on, to come up with some guidance to them and for them.
And the monitor to clarify for us too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that you as CPCs need to devise a strategy to go through these paragraphs to see how that you can aid the department and the city in compliance. This is something that we do on a very regular basis, so it is quite apparent that it needs to be a step that you'll need to incorporate in some of the business that you do within your CPC.
So we need
So
to
that,
do
so that these kinds of questions can be answered, or you can get some guidance as to how you're going to come into compliance. And those are just works in progress and we have to continue to work on. 268, any more on 267?
Just an observation, if I may. Is that okay?
Sure.
The city is not homogeneous in where people live. And so you would find CPCs that would have different proportions of the various groups, we'll just call them, within the city. And even if that group is representative of their area, it's not going to be the same mix as the other CPC in the other end of the town. The other thing is they're all volunteers. You can't make them come. And if there is a group, let's say has been alleged tonight, that there is a group that is fearful of the APD, they will volunteer either not at all or in a smaller proportion than their proportion of the population. And to go to the absurd, if you get
Let's not go.
if you go to the absurd, you might get to a CPC that has nothing but white applicants. What are we going to do? Turn them down until we get some applicants of color? This needs to be looked at and see how critical is it to do that.
It's mandated.
Well, I think that the answer is that it is critical. I think that we all acknowledge that it's critical. And it is in working with Mr. Rickman and the strategies that the CPCs are going to move forward to come into compliance with 267. It's something that has to be done. Now, it may be that this gets evaluated on a citywide basis as opposed to each CPC individually, but it's vital that this paragraph comes into compliance, just like all the paragraphs.
Tina Clone with APD Board, I just wanted to state briefly that the 267 requirement isn't just in regards to race, but in making sure that the cross-sectional representation involves leaders in the community from academics, including leaders in faith, business, youth. So that's part of, at least my interpretation of having the councils be diverse. In APD's self-report, in what they're telling the public and the Department of Justice and how they're complying. They've stated that they have reached out to the ACLU and other organizations. That is not true to my knowledge, but I know the Northeast Heights has, and if anybody is interested in the 18 organizations that make up APD4, I'm more than happy to give you a list. There's also another amici in this lawsuit, which has its own organizational members, and I can put you in touch with them as well.
Thank you. We're sure not having a lot of public comment tonight, are we? Yes?
You invited it, I mean, I assume that you want, is that not true?
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I have a general reservations about this, I've expressed it several times, and that is that the requirements for attending the police academy and background checks are all under either, I interpret it as a suggestion, at the suggestion of APD or under the control of APD. Yet, most of the language associated with this indicates that it's the city who's supposed to be providing the resources. That's what it says in this annex report. Yet, when we see all these requirements made by APD, it looks like APD is in charge of CPCs. And I think that's contrary to the spirit of the settlement agreement. So what my question is who, I mean, let me take one more example, and that is there's language in here that says support for the CPCs has come from APD. So APD is making requests to support the CPCs when it should be the city's direct obligation to support the CPCs at the request of the CPCs, not APD. And so my question is, who is the point of contact at the city that's responsible for supporting the CPC?
Well, I'm in this position, so I'll just go ahead and answer the question. The answer is that the city's failed in that obligation.
Yes,
And as much as all of the CPCs, to my knowledge, have reached out for support, guidance, and all that the city is supposed to allocate in accordance with 268, the city has not done so. The mayor is very silent, and constituent services has not come to their aid either. APD has stepped in to fill in the gap at this point. Without APD coming in and facilitating what they have, these CPCs would have withered on the vine long ago and gone away.
But what
I understand your point.
But in addition, in response to what you just said, by APD stepping in, that taints the process. I think having to attend the civilian police academy taints the process in favor of APD getting a more favorable view from the public based upon a school that they perform or put on for so yeah, they're supposed to give you insight into how APD works.
Well, I mean, I just learned 2 minutes ago that they had to go. No, I'm just kidding. My suggestion would be that you speak with Albuquerque Forward as an amici and have them petition the court to change that provision within the settlement agreement. I think that's what you have at your disposal at this point.
Bill, that's been our complaint this whole time, is the lack of support from the city on this. And we've been watching the Office of Neighborhood Coordination, who in its heyday did community policing for it. I say, if the Office of Neighborhood Coordination was performing like it did 15 years ago, CPCs wouldn't even be in this agreement, because they were doing it on that. But the city has continued to decimate that. And we've been arguing, that's why in the budget year, when we heard
for our district, that they were adding these 3 new positions that were gonna be on the city council. Finally, we're gonna get back some communications with the city. And we've been playing, Annie and I, it was screaming. Where are you at?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I just wanted to comment on the fact that after Steve Roitman provided the orientation training session for the CPCs did get some guidance in terms of what their role was and how they could use those roles. And I believe that that is why some of the chairmen have gotten together and have gone to the city in the form of several of the city agencies, and also, so far, I think they've already contacted 4 or 5 city council members. But I think that we're seeing the CPCs develop into what they were intended to be under the settlement agreement, which is bodies that represent the community and that advocate on behalf of the community and aren't under APD, but rather are supported by the city as a whole. I do think that we're now seeing that our CPCs are recognizing that that is their responsibility and that the city has made an obligation to provide that support to them. So I applaud you for making those efforts.
The council, city council, I think has been very supportive. It's the mayor's office that I have a beef with. And one of the beefs I have is that we had an applicant to be on our board, and it was the only person who had gotten to join, or wanted to join. And it was, I think, 15 months, and he still hadn't had a background check by the city. So what happens, he says, nah, I don't want to do it. I don't blame him. That's a long time to wait. So we kind of figured, okay, the city's not helping us. We're going to do an end run around them. And we talked to Selena about, well, one of the requirements is to go on a ride-along. Would that be good enough? That background check be good enough? And I think we decided that it would. And that we just can't deal very successfully with the bureaucracy. I can't. I shouldn't speak for everybody. But I can't.
We want to appoint people that are working on this, trying to deal with the city.
Well, thanks,
You have
but
a perspective of being on this.
it just, I mean, like I said, the last summit, I'm still waiting for a callback from our NEHO from last September.
You too.
So I know they don't care about us. I know they don't really want us nosing into their business. At least that's how it appears to me. However, that being said, we have gotten support that has been, at least I'm sure of this in my case, that's been very neutral from APD, trying to help us get people on board and other things that we need to do. And to heck with the mayor's office. The city councilors, on the other hand, I think have been, at least our 3 in the Northeast, have been, Brad Winter in particular, been very responsive. And I think creating this new position, 3 new positions in total eventually, is a godsend for all of us. So I think it will get better. And that's why we've done some of the things we've done.
All right, well, we are at the meeting limit. So if you want, I believe that we've sent out the monitor's report. The monitor's report is on our website. You can read the whole thing, or you can scroll to little paragraphs that apply to you, and these descriptions are there. I would say this, it's easy to sit on the outside and observe, But if you want to make change, you need to be involved. This is an outlet for you to be involved. Selena?
Just one thing before everybody leaves, I left these on this back table. I only made 30 copies, so maybe I'll email it to board members in the morning. But this is APD's recommendation for changes on the background check issue. So I'd like you to review them, solicit feedback from your own networks and community members, and really make that a grassroots effort. We talked to ACLU this morning about it, and they plan to give some input. So really look at them and then kind of do feedback amongst yourselves of what you would say. This is the recommendation from APD's perspective, and then take it from there and make it community-oriented perspective.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
And is that Brad Winters, the Secretary of State?
Yeah.
I'm a little confused. Oh, okay.
Triple dipper, Brad?
So he's in two branches of government. Okay. Well, I just want to make sure.